Hey everybody, it's your old pal Uncle Phil, and it's time for another sermon for Lost Socks. I know I said last week that I was going to do this on Saturday before Sunday. Uh, don't give me crap about it, okay? I know you're thinking, you can't even go 2 weeks. I ended up at the last second going out of town and actually giving a sermon for real in a real church. So I kind of was a little busy. I was gone all weekend. Anyhow, I have a legit excuse. But also, we're not going to get legalistic about this. We're not going to sit here and get hung up about it, because that's sort of the whole thing. Is you don't want to be that guy. That's sanctimonious, finger wagging, rule obsessed. Just calm down. You're going to get your sermon now. It's a couple days late. This is when I got to it. It'll all be okay. Okay? So I've actually already given this sermon once. I wish I could have recorded it during the time that I gave it for real in a real church, but I didn't have my act together on that either, because I guess the theme is I don't really generally have my act together at all in life. But nonetheless, the gospel passage for this particular Sunday, last Sunday, June 7th, which was my 29th anniversary, by the way, 29 years of wedded bliss. No, seriously, married to my best friend. She's the best. Anyhow, I'll tell you that story some other day. Anyhow, yeah, so, if you're not familiar with, a liturgical church, following a Book of Common Prayer kind of thing, you get your choices. I didn't grow up that way, so it was not that way. But now that I'm in this world, you get your choices. You have your Old Testament, your New Testament, your Gospel, and a Psalm, something thrown in there. Anyhow, I chose the Gospel. I often do, because I like the Gospel. I like Jesus stories. They're my favorite. But it was from Matthew 9. I'm looking down. My iPad's down here. Matthew 9, starting verse 9. It goes through 26. They drop out a couple verses in the middle. I'm not sure why, but anyhow. This is great. This is a great story. In fact, it's funny because the priest told me, he said, "Hey, Phil," when he said, "You're going to be preaching on Sunday," he said, this is the beginning of what's called ordinary time in the church calendar. Ordinary time. Again, new to all this, relatively new. But ordinary time just means there's no like church festivals or feasts or holidays coming up. It's just kind of normal time. And I like this idea of ordinary time, because the thing is that I think we all walk around living this tension between the ordinary and the not ordinary, because we are like, for example, we're eternal beings, but we live in a temporal, time-based reality. We're bound into the moment that we're in, but we're always thinking about the future and the past. Like I love these sort of these complexities and tensions that we carry around just natively in our bodies. So the idea of life being ordinary, like, I mean, I think it's funny because growing up, my family there'd be something, crises and turmoil and trauma and tragedy would happen. And I remember my parents used to do this thing like, 1984 has been such a year, 1985. Boy, if we can just get to 1987. Like every year it was, if we could just get to, and I adopted the same thing. Like if we can just get to 2011, if we can just get to 2014. And my wife was finally like, "Honey, you say that every year. Like this is the life. The life is complicated and messy, and this is what happens." So anyhow, this is ordinary time, whatever the heck that means. And in Jesus's case, ordinary, if you're God and man at the same time, that's just, that's ordinary. Sure, right, whatever. God incarnate, wearing skin, walking around, but fully God and fully man. Yeah, let's explain the Trinity. That'll be awesome. And the incarnation. And just, why not? Why not all of it? So yeah, ordinary time. So let's do some ordinary day in the life. Just a day in the life of Jesus trucking around in his ordinary Jesus life. So he's walking, it says, as Jesus was walking along, just walking along like you do, walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." The thing is that he's walking along and he sees Matthew. And the thing about tax collectors is, Matthew was a tax collector, is that they were not well loved, right? They were not well loved because if you don't know anything about this, the way the Roman Empire worked is they'd bulldoze into a place and they would then find, people of questionable ethical flexible morality. And they would say, hey, we got a deal for you. We need some tax collectors. Because, ultimately, it always comes down to money, right? And they say, we need tax collectors. And so they would ask people who were in this place that they had just steamrolled into. They'd say, if you volunteer to be a tax collector, here's what's going to happen. You're going to take money from your own people and give it to us. That's kind of how taxes work. You're going to give it to Rome. But they said, here was the sweet part, is they said, we need X amount. Like, here's the nut, right? You got to pay us this amount in taxes. Over that, whatever you collect, you get to keep. So depending on how unethical you were, like where you were on that sort of a divide, you could take as much as you wanted over the amount you had to pay Rome and just keep it. And that's exactly what they did. And this was a known practice. Everybody knew this is what was going on, that tax collectors were stealing 2-3 times what they were supposed to be taking and just pocketing it. And so think about how people felt about this, because they knew it. It was a known thing. And yet the tax collectors were kind of protected, because Rome's going to protect them because they're the ones collecting the cash. So you knew this person, this tax collector. Maybe you knew him before Rome came in. And then you're like, oh, really? Really? You volunteered to be a tax collector? And that meant you were stealing from your own people to not only line your pockets, but to pay the conquering empire? Like, you're a collaborator and a thief? Like, it's disgusting, man. The tax collectors were absolutely despised in their culture. Nobody liked tax collectors. And so when Jesus sees this guy, he'd be well within his rights to say, I'm going to give a little moral lesson here. When he sees Matthew, he could have said, hey, you dirty dog. You low down, disgusting, how could you? How could you do this? You need to do some soul searching, Matthew. You need to ask yourself some tough questions, because you're doing something terrible. You're doing something horrible. He doesn't say any of that. He looks at Matthew and he goes, follow me. Follow me. It's an invitation. How many invitations do you think tax collectors got to do anything other than go screw themselves? Probably they got that invitation from time to time. I don't think they got a lot of invitations from people. And Jesus says, follow me. Jesus looks at him and he sees beyond the trappings of this thing he does, which is a bad thing, which has defined him in everybody's mind. And he goes, follow me. I can use you. I see something. I see in you something beautiful, something useful. Come on. And immediately he gets up. If you read the Luke passage, I think it's Luke 5, maybe, this corollary passage in the Gospel of Luke, it says he left everything behind, got up, and followed Jesus, which is, I love the order of that. Before he even got his butt out of the chair, he'd left everything behind. Like, this is so profoundly transformative for Matthew. This completely changes everything for him, because this rabbi has said, I see you for something other than being the tax collector. I want you. Wow, man, like that just, it's crazy. It's crazy. So point number 1 is never underestimate what showing someone love and kindness and acceptance can do to their lives. Absolutely amazing. So Matthew throws a party, which I think we should throw more parties, like more, I used to call them Ain't Jesus Cool parties. Like, he's just throwing a party because Jesus was nice to him. He's like, somebody was nice to me, I've got to throw a party. So he throws a party. Now, the problem is when you're a tax collector and you've been a tax collector, all respectable friends have stopped associating with you, and all you have left are bad friends. So it says, he got up, followed Jesus, and then later it says Jesus sat down at dinner in his house. Many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. So Jesus goes to the tax collector's house, which already would have been completely socially taboo. And then the only people Matthew can get to come to the dinner to join him are other people who are also social outcasts and looked upon as being horrible, despicable, sinful, terrible people. And this is who Jesus is hanging out with. He's sitting around hanging out with these people, enjoying himself, eating and drinking. And it must be a good party because the cops show up, right? When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, the Pharisees are these sanctimonious religious assholes. I'm sorry, it's a technical term. They're these sanctimonious religious leaders who sit around, studying the law, arguing over the law. They work in conjunction with the lawyers, and they act as sort of, judge and jury of everybody's lives according to the law. And they walk up and they see this party going on, people having a good time, but it's full of people that they have deemed unworthy, bad, terrible people. And they come up and they go to the disciples. I think it's interesting, by the way, they don't go to Jesus directly. They go to the disciples. It's kind of like they know, like, we're gonna get our ass handed to us if we go talk to this guy because he's smarter than us. So we'll go pick on his underlings. They go to his disciples and they say, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Why would you do that? I love the assumptive close there. Like, it just shouldn't be done. They're not asking why, like, we're actually interested in an answer. They're like, it's kind of a, how could you? Like, it's more an issue of, doesn't he know? Like, in another place, there's going to be a scene where Simon the Pharisee has Jesus over to dinner, and a woman comes in, and he thinks if he knew what kind of woman this was, he wouldn't let this happen. Like, clearly he would never voluntarily, like, something just doesn't compute because it's so understood that you don't cross a line and talk to people that are bad people. So he asks his disciples this, but Jesus overhears, and he says he heard this, and he said, hey, those who are sick, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. I've come to call not the righteous, but sinners. Now, it's easy to misunderstand this passage because you could look at this and think he's saying, well, you guys are righteous, so that I didn't come for you. I came for these people who are not righteous, which would sort of confirm all the terrible thoughts that the Pharisees are having, right? Like, they're sitting there thinking, yeah, we think they're terrible too. What's interesting here is that, because in other places you're going to see that Jesus talks about, unless your righteousness far exceeds that of the Pharisees, then, there's no place for you in the kingdom of God. When the rich young ruler comes to Jesus and says, good teacher, and Jesus goes, who's good but God alone? The logical sleight of hand here, the logical trick that's at play, go read Romans 3. There's none righteous, not even one. The logical and theological thing going on here is Jesus is sort of subtly saying, the problem isn't them. The problem is you think you're not a sinner. The problem is not that they're sinners. They know it. You think you're not. You think you're above them. You think you're better than them. You think you're not one of them, but you are. I came for the lost. I came for the sinners. I came for the sick. And man, that's such a profound moment, because this is the thing. And I can tell you, first of all, everybody's a sinner. Second of all, everybody's sick, everybody's hurting, everybody's got problems. The difference is there are people who admit they have problems, and there's people who pretend like they don't. And maybe it's worse now because we have social media and everybody wants to look like they have their shit together all the time and everything's perfect, and we curate reality, and now we can just, tell AI to clean up our reality so that I write perfect emails and I have perfect shopping lists and my pictures all have the necessary extraneous things purged out, and every blemish and every street sign I didn't see sticking out of my head in the back of the picture can be removed. Like, God forbid we not be perfect, right? But that's just it. We aren't, and we know it. We know it. If we're honest with ourselves, we know it. In fact, very often people are walking around, carrying around so much stinking hurt and anxiety and fear because they're just eaten up, but they dare not show it. And they dare not show it because these Pharisees are going to go, But see, Jesus apparently he's totally approachable. This is what I love. He's totally approachable. Are you broken? Are you messed up? Are you sinful? Guess who completely will let you come in? Jesus. Guess who will probably not let you come in? Sanctimonious religious people who think they're better than you. It's a problem. So point number 2, always count on the fact that the snooty, upright, sanctimonious will look down on those who cross those lines, who cross the lines of acceptance, who show love where they think you ought not to, or they show grace when you think you should show judgment, those people will come calling for you. It's just going to happen. But remember, in this story, they're the ones who are wrong. The ones who are walking around checking on everybody else's morality, they're the ones that are wrong. That's a theme of the whole New Testament. Okay. Then, while he was saying these things, suddenly a leader of the synagogue came in and knelt before him saying, "My daughter's died. Come and lay your hands on her and she'll live." Now, this is kind of impressive that this guy says, "I have so much confidence in your power that you could come raise my daughter from the dead. My daughter's dead and she's just died and I need you to come save her." And this happens. He just bursts in. So Jesus sees Matthew, then there's a party. At the party, the cops show up and complain. While he's arguing with the cops, they're not really cops, they're the religious cops. This guy bursts in and says, "You got to help me. You got to help me. My daughter's died." And so Jesus said, "All right, let's go." He brings his disciples, he says, "Let's go." Then suddenly, this is now the second suddenly in 3 sentences. So the first one was suddenly the guy came in and said, "My daughter has died." Then on his way to go help the daughter, suddenly it says, a woman who'd been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I'll be made well." I love that both of these people, the first guy's like, I think you can save her. I think you can make my daughter literally come back from the dead. And the second woman's like, "You have so much power. I think all I have to do would be to touch your robe." Keep in mind, this is not about a magic robe. It isn't like Jesus got out in the morning and was like, "I should wear my miracle robe today in case anybody brushes up, they can get a little spirit sprinkle on it." No, the issue is her faith in what Jesus can do. She's just like, this is the extent of the power that I think he's got, is that I think if I just walk up and touch him, I'm probably going to get well. That's how much power I think he's got. Jesus turned. In another account, in Luke, I think again, he says he felt the power go out of him, and he turns and he says in the Luke passage, he goes, "Somebody touched me. Who touched me?" And they're all like, "What are you talking about? There's a crowd." Of course, lots of people touching. He's like, No, this was a different touch. Like somebody came up and touched me, and there's a thing going on here. But in this case, he just turns and he knows who it is, and it says, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." Again, it's not my magic cloak made you well. Your faith made you well. And of course, your faith is only as valid as the object of your faith, right? That you understand, faith is fine, faith is great, faith is necessary, but if you put your faith in something that is completely idiotic, then it's actually maybe not only useless, it could be dangerous. The faith's inherent value comes from the object in which you put your faith, right? So this whole story is a story of people putting their faith places. So you got Matthew, who's got faith in nothing. He's done. He's like, I'm just going to be a loser. Everyone hates me. And then Jesus comes and says, I think you can be something. And he's like, wow. And so he puts his faith that this rabbi, who has been making claims of being connected to God in ways that nobody else has said, might even be God himself. I'm going to put faith in that. Then the guy comes and says, I have faith that you can raise my daughter. Then the woman says, "I have faith you can make my hemorrhage go away." All of these people are putting faith in Jesus. The Pharisees, though, what are they doing? They're putting faith in what good little boys and girls they can be. I can wash my hands the right number of times. I can cross all my T's and dot all my I's and even my lowercase j's. I can do it all right. I can be good. That's what their faith's in. Just how good they can be. When Jesus gets to the house, the mourners are already there. They're making a commotion. They're doing their thing. Jesus says, "Go away. The girl's not dead, but sleeping." And they laugh at him. They're like, I love this, because they're like in mourning mode. And then they're like, "Okay, this guy's cuckoo. She's not dead? Like, she's definitely dead. She's definitely dead." But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in, took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout the district. I bet it did. So the first point is, if you reach across some social divide, if you reach over to the person who is maybe considered unlovely or difficult or sinful or not right, it could have a profound transformative impact. Point number 2 is that the sanctimonious who don't like that are always going to come calling and make you feel like it's the wrong thing, but they're the ones who are wrong. And then the third point is this: people are the point. So these people come up to Jesus. This guy comes up and goes, I need help. And Jesus is like, let's go. The woman touches him. Let's go. This is what it's about. It started with, I see you, Matthew. This whole thing is about Jesus reaching into the lives of people and transforming those lives. And I say this because this is the thing, man. People are going to show up and they're going to mess up your plans, right? Like, Jesus was at a party and this guy comes crashing in, hence the word suddenly. And he doesn't go, well, bro, if she's dead, yeah, I can do it, but I kind of save it for special occasions like Lazarus and then me. Like, I kind of already have resurrection plans. Like, I think maybe if you'd caught me on Tuesday, we could have done a thing, When he's on his way to the kid, because he's willing to go, the woman catches him. And probably the dad was like, can we not stop and talk to this lady? Like, it's the old line is life is what happens when you're busy making plans. I think people are what happen when you're busy trying to have a life. And the thing is people are messy and time consuming and difficult. And I mean that with love. And I know it's true because I'm messy and difficult and inconvenient. Like, that's how this works. But here's the thing. I would also say that's where the beauty is. Because where are we reading this from? The gospel according to Matthew. Do you think his life has changed? You think the woman who'd been carrying around a hemorrhage for 12 years, in the Luke passage, it says she'd spent all of her money on doctors. She'd spent years and her fortunes trying to get well to no avail. You think she was demoralized? You think she was hurting? You think she was sad? You think she was just about on the edge of giving up? She comes in. You think her life's changed? The dad who's lost his daughter, do you think his life has changed? Do you think that little girl's life has changed? Like, people are messy, man, but people are what it's about because we are built for relationship by a relational God, man. Like, God is fundamentally relational. He didn't make us because he was like, man, I don't think I can get all the work done. I better make humans. He didn't create humanity because he's like, I am just pressed for time. He made us to have a relationship with us, which we're not necessary in that sense, and yet it's desired because we have a relational God who made humans and we are relational. He made the first one alone. I mean, this whole story is so symbolic. He made the first one alone and said it's not good to be alone, and then there's a relationship built. Like, he puts people in community. It's absolutely critical to remember that you're designed, you're built for relationship. It's kind of the whole point. And the impact you have in the lives of people is the most important thing about you, right? Like, whatever job you have, that thing you do, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what you do. You make widgets. It doesn't matter. That's fine. It's just, that's going to disappear like dust in the wind, man. Go read Ecclesiastes, But you're walking around all day long, bumping into eternal beings because you're one too. And so there's eternal impact when you interact with another person. You have the chance to profoundly change a life in a beautiful, positive, joyous way. So there you go. There's the sermon from Sunday. There's kind of some version of what I said. And I'm sorry it's late. I feel terrible about it, but I'm going to get over it. And I hope always that you will remember that the Jesus in this story, first of all, doesn't he sound great? He sounds pretty great to me. But he loves you. He loves you. And Uncle Phil, I wish you grace, peace, and love. I wish that for everyone.